In episode 5, Bradley goes out with Corey that night and acts business as usual. She doesn't want to tip him off to the fact that she knows that he was behind the Wolf River situation, but she also wants to get some evidence. So as they're at this rooftop bar and they're hanging out, she says, hey, can you go get me a drink? As she's, I'm using air quotes here, looking at pictures of his new movie, she's actually searching his email for Wolf River, anything related to it. And nothing pops up. But then she searches the attorney's name and she does find some information. And there is a photo of the attorney with some random woman. And Bradley doesn't know who she is, but Bradley takes a photo of Corey's screen. And then at that point, Corey's coming back, so she has to X out of everything. The next day, though, when Bradley shows up for TMS, things have changed a little bit. Instead of Yanko being there, it's going to be Chris Hunter. And the reason why Chris is replacing Yanko for this particular episode is the fact that even though Chris is supposed to be on everything involving the Olympics, a story has recently come out saying that Chris doped in order to get her gold medal. So she wants to go on TMS just to show that she's got nothing to hide. She pressures Ben, and then eventually Ben, now being the head of news, gives in. But Ben making sudden changes to TMS is now becoming a trend that is really, really weighing on both Isabella and especially Layla, who is now taken over as the head producer because Mia's out. Layla, like many people, desperately wants Mia to come back, and that's the thing. That's the general consensus around the staff, so much so that they're putting up posters that say, "Wanted, Mia Jordan, bring back the boss." Not the best look for Ben. Even with all the stress, though, Layla, Isabella, the staff of TMS, they go through that day's episode. Chris shows her face, never bringing up doping, just showing her face. That's what she wanted. But at the end of the episode, Ben finds Layla and says, oh, by the way, we need to change some things tomorrow for TMS. And again, this is a trend with him, and it's not a good one. It's an example of why this guy shouldn't have gotten the job in the first place. He doesn't realize what he's doing to the staff. And Layla tries to tell him, hey, this isn't right. I mean, you're really putting on a crappy product by doing this, but he gives the whole boss speech of, oh, I got faith in you. While he's doing this, by the way, he's taking down one of those Mia posters and he's tearing it up. But Layla has reached a breaking point. She goes to the top. She goes and talks to Alex and vents her frustration about what Ben is doing. So Alex brings in Ben and says, dude, you got to stop. He makes his pitch on why he's doing the things he is doing, but then he brings up the fact that these posters are up. And then he asks the tough question. Do you think that she should have gotten this job? And Alex is really good. I mean, she dances around giving an actual answer, which of course is, yeah, Mia did deserve the job. But she also tells him, yeah, we need Mia. And then she's saved by her assistant, who tells Ben, hey, your assistant's looking for you. And then she tells Alex, hey, the Times picked up that story about your dad. Oh, and also, Joy Taylor from Defy Media called, and she's looking for a reference for Mia. And this is the last thing that Alex wants. She doesn't want Mia taking another job. And it's worth mentioning that Mia crushed this interview. I mean, it seems like it's her job to lose. And that's when Alex goes all Alex. Because Alex doesn't want Mia to actually take another position, she wants to convince Mia to come back to TMS. She basically bribes this Joy Taylor person into not hiring Mia, telling Joy that she'll do some benefits and fundraisers if she doesn't hire her. It's a pretty shitty move. And it's one that when Mia finds out about it via her agent, she does not handle it well, as you can imagine. In fact, that night, she actually calls up Andre and meets with him. She really just wants to vent her frustration about the fact that Alex Levy still thinks that she has control over Mia's life, her career. But it's also a booty call, let's be real. And it's not the only booty call that takes place that night. I don't necessarily know, actually, if you can call this a booty call, but Chris and Marcus had a date plan that night. The problem is Chris's little attempt to dispel any of these doping allegations by simply going on TMS and showing her face didn't really work. In fact, the story continues to grow. It's gotten to the point where some of her sponsors are actually pulling out of the Chris Hunter business, which is stressing not only Marcus out as her manager and husband, but also Chris out. Chris wonders aloud how exactly the person who started this rumor got the information. And Marcus says, don't worry, I handled it, which tips Chris off to the fact that Marcus knows who it is. And Marcus says, look, I sent a cease and desist. Let's give them time to reply to it. But in the meantime, I will tell you who it is if you promise to let this thing go. And it turns out the person is named Tunde Johnston, And yeah, Chris knows her because they were on the Olympic qualifying team together. They went to school together. Chris hadn't spoken to her in years, but that night, it changes. Because Chris and Marcus do go out, they get drunk, they have a good date night, but before they actually hook up, Chris sneaks off and the alcohol gets to her. She rings up Tunde and she reams her out. I mean, she curses her out for even messing with her and dragging her name through the mud. The problem is, Tunde listened to it completely sober and released that audio, to which sports publications, including the Bros show, picked it up and just started mocking Chris, which didn't sit well with Alex. After one such segment, Alex storms into the Bros show and says, "Do you realize what you're doing? I mean, Chris is one of our own." But the Bro actually makes a good pitch. He says, "Look, this is news. And my audience demands that I hold people accountable, which is what I'm doing." For Alex, she just thinks he's being a dick. But to the Bro, he thinks this is fair and impartial journalism. And to be quite frank, he doesn't really care that Chris Hunter works in the building because he reminds Alex, "Oh, my ad revenue pays for your salary." After unsuccessfully trying to get the Bro to stop talking about the Chris Hunter situation, Alex goes and checks on Chris, and even though Chris is putting on a strong face, it's obvious that she is bothered by this. When Chris goes to leave the office that day, there is a swarm of media outside ready to just snap her photo, ask her questions. But there's also Mia, who showed up because she wants to clear the air with Chris, but she also wants to help her out. Their last interaction wasn't a good one, but she also is aware that no one in that building is actually being there for Chris when she needs it the most. And Mia thinks that she can be that person. So they decide to get in the car together and ride off and talk. Mia apologizing for how their last conversation went. But then she comes up with an idea. Go on the Bro show. Yeah, your audio leaking isn't a good look, but just own it. I mean, this country, for the most part, is okay if you just own your own shit. So do that. I'm telling you, it'll work in your benefit. And after thinking about it, that's exactly what Chris is going to do. The next day, she's going to go on the Bro show. As for the other member of the morning show, Bradley, she got some surprising news from her agent. A contract extension from TMS. That night, she actually goes and talks to Alex about it, saying, "I can't sign an extension right now. I don't want to get involved in the Chris stuff, and not to mention, you don't even want me here." But Alex tells her, "No, Bradley, I'm the person who thought of this. I'm the one who told them to extend you. Yeah, I didn't think it would work out, and you drive me nuts, but you're also good for UBN. Bradley, I believe in you." And that's when Bradley says, "Alex, maybe you shouldn't." She then reveals to Alex that she slept with Corey, and that Corey is one of the people that was hiding the Fox River situation. Alex is stunned, but also says, "Look, I mean, if Corey did something, you probably have to step away from the story you're working on, but we don't know what he did. I think what you need to do is call him right now, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be." So Bradley gets on the phone, and she has plans on doing it. She's got Corey on speakerphone, but she can't. I mean, her and Corey set up a date, but when Bradley hangs up, she looks at Alex and says, he deserves to have this conversation in person, so I'm going to give him that. Their date is scheduled for the next night, and Bradley has a little bit of time to figure out how she's going to broach this topic with Corey. But that's the next night. That day is Chris's big interview, and her and Mia step into the UBN office like bad bitches. I mean, they're owning the place. But what they didn't expect was that the Bro wasn't going to just interview Chris. He also invited Tunde, who showed up. And as Chris and Tunde are having an awkward conversation in the green room, waiting for their opportunity to go on the air, Chris, first of all, apologizes for the message, but also says to Tunde, "We could just go to a bar and do this ourselves. We don't have to be this guy's show pony." And that's when you get to the bottom of why Tunde is doing what she's doing. Chris had canceled a TMS appearance at their old school, a school that Tunde coaches at, and a school that desperately needs the publicity and the funding. And Chris said, "Yeah, look, we just didn't have time to do it. I mean, we cut the segment. It wasn't anything personal." But to Tunde, it was personal. To Tunde, it's Chris forgetting where she came from. So this, the leaking of information and the rumor that she doped in Rio and London, this is payback. And even though Chris wants to just do this privately, Tunde says, no, you had your chance. We're doing this publicly. It's then time for both women to go on the bros show, and Mia is watching from the outside when she's approached by Ben, who is livid at Mia for pulling this move. Mia, though, looks at Ben and says, you weren't helping her, so I did. This is going to benefit Chris. But that's not the way Ben sees it. He calls Alex and says, look, this is like DEFCON 1. You got to help me out here. You got to do something. But Alex says, they're already on the air. There's nothing we can do. The genie's out of the bottle. So they just have to let the interview go and hope that Chris comes out smelling like roses. The two women go back and forth for a while until Tunde says, I have proof that she doped. And she provides the bro with a photocopy of a prescription for anabolic steroids to Chris Hunter. And the bro looks at it and he says, well, this is the smoking gun. And then he shows it to Chris and says, do you want to comment? And Chris does, in fact, comment. She owns up to it. But the story is not what anyone thought. Chris used steroids not to win her first medal. She won that on her own. Chris used steroids to get back in shape to win her second medal. Because Chris got pregnant and all of her sponsors pulled out. Her and Marcus were broke. And to make matters way worse, Chris went into labor 5 weeks early where they lost her son in the process, Amari. And it was really emotional for both her and her husband. So in order to just get back everything that they had lost, and also to get Chris's mind off of things, she decided to, yes, try steroids. And it worked. I mean, she ended up getting in the best shape of her life. She ended up winning gold, but she also admitted that when she was on the podium hearing the national anthem, she felt like she let everybody down, like it wasn't worth it. This revelation that Chris used steroids to get over the death of her prematurely born baby boy is a lot for everybody. Tunde, the bro, everybody listening. This is a revelation that only her and Marcus knew about. And when the interview ends, for Mia and Chris, now they just have to wait for the court of public opinion to make their verdict. As Chris goes back to her dressing room and talks to her husband about everything that happened, it's really emotional. For Alex, however, she was watching the entire interview in her office, but once it was done, she stormed down and she told the bro, did you have any idea what you were doing? I mean, ruining people's lives? And he says, look, I didn't know that was going to be the case. I didn't realize that was the story. But Alex also tells him it was a good interview, because it was. And then she goes and finds Mia. By this point, the court of public opinion has made their choice, and it is very pro Chris Hunter. For Alex, however, she's concerned about the Olympic coverage being screwed up, but Mia says, no, maybe not, because people love it when somebody actually owns their mistakes. Alex, you could probably learn from that. And that's when these two just have it out. Mia going off on Alex for making a decision about Mia's career for her. Alex thinking that she was doing the right thing because, in her words, we have so much more work to do. But it's work that Mia doesn't want to do. And for Alex to tank a recommendation for her own selfish reasons, that's what pisses Mia off the most. They actually get into a big FU match back and forth. Alex failing to realize that she is the pot meeting the kettle in a lot of situations, and Mia finally reminding Alex, yeah, you don't own me. Like, I don't work for you. And me and Chris, we're going to be working together because we make a really good team. Making it known that her and Chris are going to be looking around for other opportunities. Maybe Chris isn't built for UBN anymore. So yeah, it was a bit of a hectic morning in the offices, but that night at the hotel that Corey and Bradley stay in, Bradley goes to Corey's room because they have that date set up, but the date never happens. Because Corey says, you know, it was funny, I was going to make you dinner, but I went into my email to look for the recipe. And you know how when you search for something, it shows you the last bunch of information that was searched. And I saw that you searched for this lawyer's name. I mean, the fact that you told me you wanted to see pictures of my movie, but in reality you were gaining information? Were you using me this entire time? Did you sleep with me just because of a story? And Bradley explains, no, I didn't do that. I mean, I'd already slept with you at the point when I found out that you were involved in this situation. But to Corey, it is a giant breach of privacy. And then they actually get into the Wolf River thing. The Cliff Notes version is Corey was pressured by Fred once he got to the job to get rid of the Wolf River story. And with the EPA clearing the company of any wrongdoing, Corey said, yeah, all right. So he sent his fixer. Having no idea what his fixer was going to do, he never heard anything. He never followed up. Why would he? He was too busy with the Mitch Kessler situation to actually follow up. But when Bradley tells him, well, that lawyer that you sent your fixer after committed suicide, you can tell it really bothers Corey. He's shocked by it. He really didn't have any idea. And the fact that Bradley is insinuating that Corey's actions push this guy to suicide, well, yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he loses it on her. I mean, for the first time in 4 seasons, Corey legitimately seems really, really pissed off. He's so adamant that he didn't do anything wrong in this situation that Bradley says, okay, like I believe you, but it's too late. Corey tells her, I had a tough time getting over you the first time, but this time it's going to be way easier. I'm going to need you to leave now. And Bradley's forced to leave his apartment with her tail between her legs. But when she gets back to her apartment, somebody's waiting for her. It's the FBI agent. And he says, we need to talk. So Bradley's night just got worse.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.